Welcome, Selectors, to Weekly Wharf Wixoss. This week we are bringing you the destructive Nanashi Part 3 Calamity versus the cool member of Sanbaka, Center Ange level 3. Will Ange take home the crown to her livestream, or will Nanashi's viruses take it offline forever? Find out coming up next on Weekly Wharf Wixoss. Welcome to the Gamers Wharf in Granville, Michigan. I'm your host, Big E. Here, our selectors will do battle to determine this week's Weekly Wharf Wixoss champion. First, let's meet the Elrig, starting on the blue side. Center Ange is a level 3 aggressive Elrig. By collaborating with her livers, she can open up new paths to attack, and her once per game can seal the deal by getting in that extra damage. Her pieces include Entwined Supremacy for the extra damage on attack, and Burning Curiosity for some hard removal. Her assists include Machina for some more removal and trash pickup, and Yuzuki for even more removal and enter burn. Blue sure is bringing a hyper-aggressive deck. Can't wait to see how it works out. Next, let's meet the Elrig on the red side. Nanashi Part 3 Calamity is a controlling Elrig. She corrupts her opponent's zones with viruses, vanishing them without even having to lift a finger. Her pieces include Dissonance for Dissona SIGNI recursion, and Unrest for card draw, removal, and discard. Assisting her today is Madoka for card draw, damage prevention, and discard, and Mel for enter recursion and up to 3 damage prevention. Before we begin, a few things to note. These are casual games played at our weekly event. Any mistakes are corrected if caught. We do welcome any ruling concerns, clarifications, or corrections. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. We are always looking for new deck ideas and would also love to hear about your games of Wixoss. With that being said, we hope you enjoy this week's edition of Weekly Wharf Wixoss. Our selectors look to be ready. The Elrigs are taking the stage. The stock crowd noise is cheering. Let's get ready to battle. Red has won the dice roll and will be going first. A goal for Red this game is to play as defensively as possible, because Ange will dish out the damage very quickly. The more damage you prevent early on, the more that Ange will have to burn through in the later turns. Nanashi does come with coins, starting with 2 and getting 3 more at level 3. Our first assist comes down, Madoka Float. Red will discard a card and then draw 3 cards. Red will then play a Pond Turtle and a Musica and pass the turn. Goals for Blue this game are to strike fast and strike hard. Get damage in where you can and as much as you can, ideally winning before the game goes on too long. Blue then plays Yuzuki, vanishing the Pond Turtle and enter burning the Bang Dissona in the enter. Blue then plays a Tokiyuki in the center lane and a Code Maze in the bottom lane. Code Maze swings first in the bottom lane, and our first damage of the game is a burst. This burst forces Blue to discard 3 cards or the next attack is negated. This affects either a SIGNI or Elrig attack. The Tokiyuki's attack is negated. Now we have an attack from Ange, which is guarded by a servant, so only 1 damage got through this turn. Next, it is Red's turn to press the attack. They start by intercharging the Musica, and grows Nanashi to level 2. On the opponent's turn, Tokiyuki does get plus 5k, making her an 8k. Red starts by playing a Wallwolf in the bottom lane, and gives it Lancer, a good way to get rid of those hard to target level 1s. Red then grows Mel to level 1, getting 2 SIGNI back from the trash into the enter zone. Red then plays 2 more Pond Turtles. By discarding Dissona cards, you can make your opponent discard cards. Moving to the attack phase, Red discards 2 Dissona cards, making Blue then have to discard 2 cards. Pond Turtles do get plus 2k if you have more cards in hand than your opponent. Starting with the attacks, Red underswings in the center, then attacks in the top lane, revealing a burst, which Blue uses to vanish the upped Wallwolf in the bottom lane. Red then finishes by attacking with Nanashi, which is guarded by a servant. Red only gets through 1 damage on their first attack. The turn then passes back over to blue, who really needs to start pushing some damage here, as the later this game goes, the better chance Nanashi has to win. Blue enter charges, and then grows Ange to level 2. A Ramile is then played in the top lane, vanishing the top pond turtle. We are now moving to the attack phase. Red plays Madoka Dub, paying the additional cost to down target SIGNI and make blue discard a card at random, which is their only card. Driver's Ed is targeted in the bottom lane and is downed. Starting with attacks, we have Tokiyuki clearing in the center lane and then Ramile attacking in the top lane. Revealing another burst, getting a card back from trash to hand. The card retrieved was a servant, which is then used to prevent the damage from Ange. Another low damage turn from Ange. Not the ideal start they're looking for, but red is quickly using up their resources. Red declines to enter charge and grows Nanashi to level 3. She places viruses in the opponent's lanes as long as you have Desona cards on the field. Red then plays Alpho Desona, downing 2 Elrigs to give Ramile minus 5k. If Alpho Desona is ever removed outside of Red's main phase, blue will have to mill 4 cards. Red then plays Dissonance, getting 2 Desona SIGNI from the trash to hand. The cards that Red returns are Hedonym Desona and a Pond Turtle. Red is keeping up pressure to make sure blue has exactly 0 cards in hand. Hedonym is a great card for milling, recursion, and vanishing. Red then plays a Hedonym in the center lane and a Pond Turtle in the bottom lane. As Red has more cards in hand, Pond Turtle gets plus 2k, making her a 5k. Moving to the attack phase, Hedonym triggers, making blue mill 4 cards. Next, Nanashi triggers, putting a virus in the bottom lane. Nanashi then makes every lane with a virus in it be reduced by 3k, vanishing the driver's Ed. Blue is placed in a rough situation here. They only have 1 available assist to use to prevent some of this damage. They grow Yuzuki to level 2, Yuzuki Anderson, to vanish the Alpho in the top lane, triggering Alpho's ability, making blue mill 4 cards. Starting with the attacks, Hedonym in the center lane clears the Tokiyuki, and Pond Turtle gets in the bottom lane for the next damage, which is a burst. Choosing to bounce the Hedonym back to Red's hand. Finally getting in there with Nanashi to not a burst. Turn passes back over to blue, who's really looking to get some damage in here and hopefully no bursts on Red's side. Blue declines to enter charge and grows Ange to level 3. We are expecting to see Ange go off this turn, hopefully getting in a big chunk of damage. Blue grows Machina to level 1, vanishing the Pond Turtle, and grabs an Artemis level 1 SIGNI back to hand. Blue then goes all out, putting a SIGNI in each lane, placing an Artemis, a Mao Matsukai vanilla 5k, and a Servant down as attackers. A bit of a desperation play, but blue really needs to push damage here. Blue then plays Entwined Supremacy for that extra damage on attack, and activates Ange's once per game. Moving to the attack phase, Red plays Mel Invisible, paying all 3 costs, preventing the next 3 damage from blue. This is Red's last assist, but it is a sure strong one. Blue should still be able to get in a good chunk of damage here though with all abilities on the field. Blue first attacks with the Servant, then the Artemis, and then finally the Mao Matsukai. All damage is prevented. Moving on to Ange's attack, we first have the Entwined Supremacy trigger, which results in not a burst. Next we have Ange's once per game, which does result in a burst, which is down target SIGNI and freeze it, draw a card. Red decides to freeze Mao Matsukai. Wrapping up the attacks from Ange, we have her normal attack, which triggers another burst, which is add target card from trash to hand. Red decides to select a Servant from trash and adds it to their hand. Blue is able to connect with 3 out of 6 of their damage this turn, but Red's bursts sure are stacking up in their favor. Red decides to enter charge this turn. Red plays another hedonym in the top lane. Paying 1 black for hedonym's enter ability, they get back Bang Desona, which they then play in the bottom lane. Next, they play a Musica Desona in the middle lane, and paying 1 enter, and vanishes Blue's Servant in the middle lane. Looks like Red made a mistake here. They choose to trash the Bang they recurred from the enter and play another hedonym, probably for the mill effect. Next, they activate Nanashi's Exceed 4 ability, giving a SIGNI minus 10k and making Blue mill 6 cards. Couple this with the 2 mill effects from the hedonyms, and Blue is milling 14 cards this turn. Red then pays the 5 coins to give the Artemis minus 12k. Moving to the attack phase, Nanashi places a virus in the top lane. The empty sleeve is a stand-in for the virus token on the bottom lane. Blue now has to mill 6 cards from Nanashi's ability, and then 4 cards each from both of the hedonym's abilities, equaling 14 cards. This will be enough to refresh Blue, requiring them to trash a life cloth. If this life cloth has a burst, that burst will not activate. Blue gets lucky, and the top card was not a burst. After the deck refresh, it is now Blue's turn to respond. They play Machina Smash, vanishing the hedonym in the bottom lane. After all that, it's finally time for the attacks, starting with Musica Desona in the center, revealing a burst. This burst bounces the hedonym in the top lane back to hand. Finally, an attack from Nanashi, revealing another burst, making Musica Desona unable to attack and drawing a card. This game is coming down to the wire. Red has 2 life cloth and Blue has 1 life cloth. Blue starts off their turn by collabing with a Liver to bounce the Musica Desona back to hand. Blue then drops their entire hand, an Exia, a Orochimaru, and a Dispenser. Blue then activates Orochimaru's Enter ability, paying 2, including a Servant, to get that Servant back to hand. Blue moves to combat and starts by attacking with the Dispenser in the center, revealing not a burst. Next, they attack with Orochimaru, revealing a burst. This burst down and freezes the Exia, and Red draws a card. Finally, we have the attack from Ange, which is guarded by a Servant, leaving Red at no life cloth left. Once again, another crushing blow for Blue, that Exia attack being the game-winning attack. Red just needs to find 2 damage now through 4 attacks, both players still having 1 piece left. Red starts off their turn by playing Extra, making Blue discard a card, and Red draws a card. And Blue has to discard a Servant, which is absolutely crushing. Red then plays their final piece for the game, Unrest, Unrest, drawing 2 cards, placing up to 3 Desona Signi on the field. If there's 3 or more placed on the field this way, put a target Signi on the bottom of their opponent's deck. And then Blue has to discard 2 cards, but they have nothing in hand, so that effect will not trigger. Red plays down a Hedonym, a Musica Desona, and a Kagomecha. Red then pays 1 for the Musica Desona's Enter ability, vanishing the Dispenser in the center lane, triggering Exia, making the center lane unable to attack. Then the Exia is placed on the bottom of Blue's deck, but there is a slight mix-up and is put into Enter by accident. With the board wide open, Hedonym attacks in the top lane, it is not a burst, and Nanashi finishes Blue off. GG. Blue put up a valiant fight, had multiple opportunities to win there, but Red's hand disruption and damage prevention was just too much for Blue to overcome. Looking at the scoreboard, Nanashi had 5 bursts compared to Ange's 4 bursts, with both players having near an equal amount of effective bursts from their life cloth. We'd like to thank our selectors and our audience for making Weekly Wharf Wixoss possible. We hope you enjoyed, and see you on the next one.